Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Frères, Heureux. We are back with season 4 of the show and the podcast and us.
Yep.
As
Season
always,
4 of us.
Season 4 of us. We've evolved 3 times now.
Yeah.
Progressing ever forward.
We're now Tom Baker.
We're not. We have regenerated once again. You are joined this week, as always, by me, Frasier.
And me, Ewan.
You love doing that.
I do. It's fun.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was being sarcastic. You always seem like you don't enjoy it.
I kind of like being second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Whatever suits. We're cracking on with season 4 after a brief hiatus last week where we stopped to discuss another one of our favourite shows.
Mm-hmm.
That was very fun. We also had some goings on Twitter the last couple of weeks.
We have.
It's been very exciting.
Yeah.
After we put out the finale of season 3, we got a cheeky little note from podcast fave Harriet Harris on Twitter. BB Glazer herself.
Oh, I love her so much.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
Incredible.
I'm signaling you to come slightly closer to the mic. That's what I'm doing. You're a little bit further away.
Further away.
That's better. That's
better.
Good. That's
okay.
good. I can see.
There we go.
I can see the editing that I am going to have to do
later.
later.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to get too close.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, that was wonderful and very exciting to have acknowledgement from the cast of Frasier.
Yeah.
And not only the cast, but one of our favorites was fantastic. That's I can't quite put into words how exciting it is. And then the very next day, we had a bit of excitement after a stupid meme that I put together at like 10 o'clock at night after playing a lot of Elden Ring. I got a bit of inspiration from another one of our favourite Twitter accounts. Shout out to Frasier Looking at Video Games.
Yeah.
I don't think they listen. But
I don't know.
If you do, we love you. Your stuff's amazing. And took a bit of inspiration from that and made some Frasier boss battle screenshots.
They were very funny.
I thought I was quite proud of them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. And that caught the eye of some fellow Frasier video game aficionados.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it kind of blew up.
Yeah.
Got quite a number of followers, new followers.
A lot more traction than anything else we've put out has ever gotten.
Yeah, it was very exciting. And yeah, quite chuffed with that.
Yeah, so, as you should be.
Yeah, so we're steaming along with some new viewers, new listeners. Welcome, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Very glad to have you.
Thank you for stopping in and listening to our silly little show. We hope we will continue the madness that is the memeability of Frasier.
Yep.
And yeah, that's about it. Really, we're trying to keep up the momentum.
Yeah.
Bring you some extra content, some more memes, some silly little videos. I've been you've done very well with your.
I'm very proud of my Money Plane Mondays.
Money Plane videos.
They're
they're very good. I do enjoy them.
Giving me a chance to learn the whole video editing thing because I have done some, but it's nice getting an opportunity to just make some really stupid stuff
it is.
and put it out. And seeing people like it and reply to it is very gratifying.
I'm enjoying it as well.
I'm
so
glad.
That's good. Right, enough self-congratulatory nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
On with the show. We have said several times that season 4 is one of our favourites. We're very much looking forward to it. And after watching the first disc, I have absolutely zero doubts that it is one of the best.
It's fantastic.
Even right from the get-go, this first disc, I think this might be our best so far. I don't know, by average.
I think, judging by what I've given it, I'd be surprised if it overtook the last disc of season 2.
Okay.
But still very, very strong. I think
it's a strong opener, yeah.
I think you said something similar in the last time we talked about it, but I would be pretty surprised if there were many episodes in season 4 across the whole season that didn't get above a 3.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine many 1s or 2s. I don't think there's any episodes that I don't really dislike.
I would give any a 1 if I'm being honest. I don't know about you, But for me, anyway, I'd be surprised, even rewatching, even with changing opinions and such.
Yeah.
I think a 1 is pretty unlikely.
We have been pretty scarce with the ones so far, quite sparing.
And I think all of them have been justified as well. I don't think we've had many that are questionable ones. I think we all have our reasons for the ones we've given so far.
Yeah.
And I think they're shared by other people as well. So that's fine. Quite happy with them. And similarly with the 5s.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 1 or 2 that I disagree with you giving a 5 on, but your justification of it, I think is fine. It's justified. So I'll accept it. I'll let it go.
Okay. Good. I'm glad.
Good.
Well, I certainly hope we're not going to disagree on the first episode of this disc.
We are not.
Because this is one of my favorite episodes. It's so fun.
Well, you take the lead on. You take the lead on this one, then. You take the lead on it.
Okay, so the 2 Mrs. Cranes, opener of season 4, is, I think, like the farce of Frasier, like at its best.
Yeah.
The like double meanings and the weird, wacky situation that they've gotten themselves into, and all of the lies that they're trying to keep up, and they're like kind of spinning plates all over the place, and it's all of the characters in on it all at once, which I just love. So the season kicks off. We're kind of in this new status quo of Niles is still going through his separation, and has been, well, he's not staying with Frasier, but he's spending a lot of time there because he's now single or separated.
He's always spent a lot of time at Frasier's, but he's
like coming around for breakfast now, and he's there, which is how the episode opens. He's around for breakfast.
But I will say, I think this disc is probably in my most watched, in terms of just sticking it on in the background. So the noise at the very start of the episode of Niles tweezing the raisins out of his muffins and like tapping it onto his plate is ingrained in my head. Like if I could verbalize a noise like that, I think I could absolutely nail it.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it so many times and it's just so
up there
ingrained.
With the yawn from the beginning of Space Quest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of those auditory like memories.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
So they're having breakfast, and Frasier mentions that he had recently gotten a call from Clive, who was looking for Daphne. Daphne reveals that Clive is an ex-fiancé. The two were engaged back home in Manchester, or it might have been when she was living in London. Back home in England.
His accent's a little bit ambiguous.
It's not great. It's not a great accent. He is an American actor.
Yeah. He passed away, I think.
He did.
Quite recently, actually.
Yeah, maybe 2 years ago.
I remember seeing, it was a shame.
Yeah, I always liked him in this.
He's a good guest.
He's not really been in much else.
Very good guest star, yeah.
I think he's great as like in my notes, I've referred to him as a victim of like the shenanigans. And it's like one of those characters that's kind of like the straight man to like the nonsense that the main cast are getting up to.
Victim, I think, is a very apt.
Like he's just completely suffering for them being completely weird, and I think he does it very well. Anyway, so he's come back to Seattle to try and win Daphne back because they broke up 5 years ago, and Daphne said maybe we'll see if we're compatible in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Daphne doesn't think so and wants to let him down easily, and thus begins this web of lies where Clive shows up at Frasier's apartment in the evening, and Daphne introduces Niles as her husband.
Oh.
The two of them married 6 months or so ago, apparently, according to the lie. Frasier is staying in their apartment because he just got divorced from Maris.
He's having a spat with his wife, Maris.
And then it all comes to a head. Well, I say it comes to a head, it gets even worse beyond this, but Martin comes home and he has to try and keep... They imply that he's not going to be good at keeping up with the lies, and he says, of course, that why wouldn't he be? He was an undercover cop. If there's one thing he can do, it's think on his feet and come up with believable lies. So he gets offended and starts making it worse by introducing Roz as Maris when she comes to the apartment to give Frasier back his opera glasses.
Yep.
And then at this point, Daphne starts flirting with Clive.
Because he's actually not, he has changed.
Yeah.
She initially, when he first arrives at the apartment, thinks that he hasn't changed as a person, so has no interest. But it turns out he has, and he's actually quite successful, and he's doing well, and he's working out, he's nice and handsome.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh dear.
Which, of course, does not go unnoticed by Roz/Maris. And everything kind of, it all turns into this web of lies where they're all ripping at each other and they're
spatting
at each other's throats.
Making it worse, they imply that Daphne's pregnant, that Roz is barren, that Frasier's impotent. I love his little hand gesture. Frasier kind of gives up.
He's just resigned.
He can't keep up with it. He sits down on the couch, and Niall, after all this nonsense, Niles implies that he's impotent, and it's just this totally, like, you can't see me doing it, this like resigned, just like, he waves his hand in the air.
He waves and kind of shrugs.
It's such a Kelsey Grammer mannerism, the way he does it.
It's this sort of beautiful. Like, well, this might as well happen.
He's just also like, fine, whatever.
It's hilarious. It's, I think, just such a great episode.
It's really, really solid opener. Absolutely. And we've got a sort of side plot that kind of ties in as well with Martin heading off to his army buddy reunion.
Yeah.
Or platoon or whatever. Army reunion,
army
I think they just call it, yeah. And the whole thing is who's going to drive him to Rattlesnake Ridge, wherever that may be. Frasier and... Well, Niles can't. Niles is busy. Daphne's kind of busy, and Frasier doesn't want to go, but agrees anyway. And the whole him going along with this lie to get rid of Clive is contingent on Daphne taking Martin. So there's a bit of back and forward there as well. When things start to go wrong, Daphne, tries to unload it back on Frasier. Mm-hmm. Stinky needs a ride as well.
Yeah, there's this element of blackmail going on with the two of them.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think you can name all of the Martin's army pals that were
referenced? Do I have to not look at my notes?
Without looking, have you got them all written down? Oh no.
Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Boom or Boom Boom.
Yeah.
Stinky. Jim. Bud. And they call it, Jim's real name is Hank, and Bud's real name is...
I don't know if you find out his real name.
Oh, do they not?
I will say, I'm less impressed knowing that you've got them written down.
I wasn't looking.
I know you weren't looking.
I was looking you directly
I was making eye contact, but the fact that I knew that you had researched it makes it a little less... Yeah. If you'd rattled them off the top of your head.
If
you'd Rattlesnake Ridged them off the top of your head.
I would have been able to get Stinky and Jim.
Stinky and Jim.
Stinky. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon show. Yeah. I would have been able to remember those two. I don't think I would have been able to remember the others.
No.
If I hadn't noted it down.
Well, there you go.
So fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's this element of blackmail going on where Frasier really doesn't want to, and he kind of makes a comment about honesty is always the best policy at the start of the episode, and tries to convince Daphne to be honest to Clive, and then of course that doesn't work out and it all falls apart. Yes. No, I just think this is hilarious. There's so many great little bits.
I think Martin makes this episode for me. Every scene that Martin is in this episode is absolute gold. He is so funny. John Mahoney just nails all of the little mannerisms as well surrounding the lies.
Yeah.
So, as you said, after he is a bit insulted that Frasier and Niles don't think he could keep up with it, he says to Clive that he's an astronaut, and he does this little smirk that is just so proud of himself. Says so much. It's like, he's so proud of himself. He's like, screw you guys, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to make this so much worse for you. And when Roz turns up and he says that it's Maris, he does this it's another smirk. It's a different smirk.
Different smirk.
And it says something different, but it's equally as equally as satisfying to watch.
Hilarious.
He's so good in this episode. Absolutely brilliant. Total jerk.
Oh yeah.
He makes it so much worse for everyone.
Would you not? I think I would.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a life or death situation.
No, that's
at that
true.
point, you may as well just, have a bit of fun.
Daphne definitely could have done the honest thing.
Yeah.
And just told Clive the truth. And made it all easier for everyone. But
that's just a recurring theme in Frasier, I think, isn't it? Wouldn't everything would be so much easier if people were just honest?
But I think she's actually quite unkind, honestly. I think it's quite cruel what Daphne does. I think not only is she leading him on, but she's also quite cruel in like flaunting Niles, her new husband, in front of him. I think that's very unfair. I know he's a wee bit selfish, maybe? Assuming that Daphne's gonna
a little.
Not take him back, but at least give him another chance. I think that's a bit unfair on Daphne.
Certainly very presumptuous coming all the way.
Yeah, but she could easily have said, no, look, here's the deal. I'm sorry. I'm not interested. I don't want to do it. And that would have been it. But no.
Yeah.
Oh, well. It's almost another bottle episode.
It is, yeah.
Almost.
There's one
scene at the start.
Yeah, I suppose similar to where there's smoke, there's fired. There's one bit after the opening. There's one short scene in KACL, and then it goes back to Frasier's apartment for the whole rest of the episode.
Yeah. I forgot to mention this before we started the episode as well, but this season has a new main cast member. I don't know if you noticed, but Dan Butler as Bulldog
is now in the opening titles.
Is bumped up to main cast for
go.
season 4 through 6, I believe. And that, I think that's reflected in the DVDs as well. I think he's
on the cover art for
covers and
some
everything,
of them, yeah.
Which is strange because he's not in every episode.
No, he's not.
And he doesn't have a huge part in every episode either. So I'm not sure what that decision was based on.
Maybe if he was just a bit of a fan favorite.
He is. Yeah. I love him. Yeah. And it's great to see him get more recognition. But it's just a bit of an interesting choice. I don't know.
I suppose so.
But anyway, I meant to say that right at the start and I forgot.
No, that's a good point.
So I imagine you think of very highly of this episode.
I do. Yeah, this is a 5-cupper.
A full 5-cupper.
This is a 5-cupper.
Kicking off season 4 with a full 5-cupper.
Start strong 5-cupper.
Interesting. I give it a 4.
Oh.
I give it a 4. And I did weigh up giving it a 5. But for all the same reasons, I think that it's a great farce. Martin's great. Niles is peak Niles. Just
yeah.
But I marked it down a bit because everyone's kind of so horrible. Everyone's so just cruel to Clive and bickering at each other and just kind of nasty. And I don't like that. I don't like that aspect of it. So I marked it down a little bit for that. So it's still a high 4. But no.
Fair enough.
Not a full 5-cupper for me, I'm afraid.
All right. There you go.
There we go. But it's good. It's a strong opener. I think it's definitely one of the best opening episodes. Best we've had so far, I think.
Yeah. Where did we get to?
Yeah, sorry, we had a little bit of a dental incident.
Don't put it like that. That sounds really gross. I mean, it was gross.
It was a dental incident.
But I don't know. Wording it like that makes it sound really horrible.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a tooth thing. I had to deal with it. But we're back. Right. We finished episode 1. Let's move on to episode 2.
Yes.
Love Bites Dog.
Love Bites Dog.
Surprised me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I never liked this episode.
I don't know if I would say I didn't like it before, but I definitely like it more now upon rewatching it than I did previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
We mentioned Bulldog as part of the main cast, and he kind of gets center stage, arguably. He's the main component of this episode, anyway. Plays a big part in it. Frasier is going on a date with a blind date set up by Roz with a pro golfer. Is it Sharon, her name is?
I think so.
Sharon. And just as they start to kind of hit it off, Bulldog stops in, unannounced, interrupts. He recognizes Sharon as a golfer, he being the sports personality that he is, and the two of them run off together, leaving Frasier alone holding his coffee.
Yeah.
But thankfully for Frasier, not really. I was going to say Frasier might enjoy Bulldog's little comeuppance, but maybe not. Maybe he doesn't relish in it.
I don't think he does.
But Bulldog comes in on Monday morning to work, and he is head over heels in love with his new lady, the lovely Sharon. But unfortunately, she's not interested anymore. They've had their fun over the weekend, and that's it.
Yeah.
Poor little Bulldog's been kicked to the curb.
Bulldog has been bulldogged.
He has been bulldogged. As Roz puts it, he's finally getting payback for all the times that he's treated women like that.
Yeah.
Which is true. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But you do still kind of feel sorry for him a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. Just a touch.
He definitely has a very emotional reaction to it, which he's screaming and crying on the air, and
he does.
Locks himself in the bathroom, and
yeah, he does. He kind of just ditches his show. Leaves Frasier to hold the bag while he goes and cries in the bathroom.
Yeah,
which is it's pretty upsetting to watch. It's good though, and it really shows off Dan Butler's range, I guess.
Yeah,
it's not like a full spectrum of emotions, but it shows that he's kind of more than just this two-dimensional jerk.
Yeah,
basically, that Bulldog has been played up until now. He does come in and you fully believe that Bulldog has kind of changed. It's played jokingly. It's played like a high school boy falling in love for the first time.
Yeah.
I did make a note about that. It's kind of like this nice parallel to Bulldog being this very jock bully figure.
Yeah.
And this episode, he is played very much like a 17-year-old boy who's met a girl for the first time.
Kind of like a dorky teenager.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But he does play it well. You're convinced that Bulldog is in love, you know? And then he gets dumped, and you believe that Bulldog is heartbroken. And then he kind of... Niles and Frasier and Roz try to coax him back to himself. What?
It's very funny. No, I'm just thinking of all the bits during this segment that make me laugh. I find really funny.
Very good, very very good. The Niles bit in particular.
Yeah,
Niles comes in. They're trying to get a reservation. They've got a reservation, but it can only be held for the next 10 minutes. And while Frasier's looking after Bulldog and taking care of his show, Frasier can't leave. So Niles steps in to help Bulldog in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And his first reaction is like, you're in pain. That's good. You have to feel the pain. You have to feel it at its very deepest level. And Bulldog screams. It is
screams in pain.
It's so good. It is the best scream you've ever heard. Honestly, like it really, really is. It's absolutely gut wrenching, but it's funny at the same time. I don't know how he did it.
I don't know. It's this really
it's
like
incredible
deep howl. It's like he properly like brings it up from his gut. I think see, and he kind of doubles over and screams.
I think David Head Pierce jumps as well. He like gets a fright
a little bit.
It's so good. It's absolutely fantastic. And then Frasier's the one to finally save the day. Mm-hmm. He comes in and he tries to do his whole psychiatrist shtick and make him feel better and give him, oh, you're feeling this way because blah 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 blah. And it's like, Bulldog just says, no, just be a guy. Mm-hmm. Just I need a friend. I just need a guy to get me back on track.
Yeah. And
Frasier kind of loses it a little bit.
Does his best at being a guy.
He's like, screw her. Neither of us need her. She's nothing. She's a nobody. She just saved you the hassle of dumping her. and that makes Bulldog feel better. He gets back to his normal self. Frasier can't shake off the persona though, and by the end of the episode, Niles has to set him back on track. He does.
It's so funny. He comes in and Niles is complaining that they've lost their reservation for Henri's or wherever it is that they're going.
It's Henri's, yeah.
And Frasier says, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I say we just go somewhere. We don't even need a reservation." Just slaps him.
Niles slaps him, and it's again. What is it with the audio in this episode? But the slap is so good.
Yeah,
it's such a satisfying sound.
Mm-hmm.
The same with Bulldog's like
the scream.
It's so good. It's so well done, well timed. It's wonderful. It's so good. I love seeing Bulldog. I love seeing Dan Butler, and I love him getting a bit more character development.
Yeah.
He gets a lot more later on. Unfortunately, that's as he's kind of phased out the show.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoilers for later on. Bulldog does eventually leave at one point, sort of.
He comes back again afterwards, but...
Yeah, and it's a real shame, because the episodes where he starts to leave, I think he's really, really good. I think if he wasn't nominated for like a guest Emmy, he should have been.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've not looked that far ahead, so he might have been. But I think he's really, really good. Dan Butler is a really talented guy.
Yeah,
and I really love seeing him in episodes like this where he actually gets to show off a bit.
Yeah,
excellent stuff.
Yeah,
but the rest of the episode's good as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some really funny moments. We've got Niles is complaining a little bit because he can't afford nice things at the moment. He's struggling a bit since the separation. He buys a belt. It's Spanish leather. To which Roz has the same belt as well. Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah.
We've got the Martin and Daphne subplot as well is very strange.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
It's probably the one disappointing part of the episode.
It, unfortunately, is reflected in my rating for the episode that I'm not really a fan of it.
Go anywhere.
No,
it's just a bit strange.
It's like really kind of classic B plot in that it does not tie into the main plot of the story at all. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really have anything interesting. There's not really any character development. There's not even any good dialogue or really is an interesting setup. It's kind of just Martin and Daphne go shoe shopping.
Niles' subplot ties in, which I like.
Yeah.
Martin Daphne's doesn't, and that's a shame. I did actually. I almost forgot, and that would have been honestly criminal if I'd forgotten. But Niles' advert in the paper, you wouldn't have let me forget.
No, God,
it's
no.
Fine. You take it. You take us through Niles' advert in the paper.
I can't even remember I'll need to see if I can remember the exact wording. So Niles is, as you said, complaining about his finances. Money's getting a bit tight now that he's separated from Maris, and I think he's running low on patients. He's only got a couple of patients, and he needs to get some more in to fill up his week so that he can get some more money in. And he decides to put an advert in the paper or in a magazine or something, and it's Dr. Kryle's name. Dr. Kryle's name. Dr. Niles Crane, young specialist. That's young, G-U-N-G.
Carl Young.
Carl Young. Servicing individuals, couples, groups. Satisfaction guaranteed. Tell me where it hurts.
Tell me where it hurts. So, I'll take over for a second. That advert is written at the start of the episode. Yep. You're talking like in the first few minutes of the episode. He reads that out to Frasier. It's not really funny. It's not really met with any laughs. It's just kind of it's just a funny little advert that Niles has written.
They make a lot of jokes outside of that.
They do.
So it doesn't feel out of place because they do a really good job of, they make jokes about like the commercialism, and Frasier kind of says, "Oh, taking an advert out, isn't that a bit, Yeah. And Niles calls him out as a hypocrite because his face is going past on the side of a bus.
Exactly. And it's kind of mass. It's just it's just an advert in the newspaper, and you don't think anything of it. You think nothing of it. It's just Niles being Niles. He's written a paragraph about himself. That's it. And then the punchline. They change one letter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the writing
Yeah.
to make a joke like that is incredible. It's so I don't know how, I just can't with words
Yeah.
explain how impressed and impressive it is to change one letter of a paragraph and make one of the funniest jokes of the whole show.
Yeah.
So Ewan, tell me, what letter did they change?
Well, they changed the J in young to an H for hung specialist.
So what does the advert say now?
Dr. Niles Crane, hung specialist. Servicing individuals, couples, groups. Satisfaction guaranteed. Tell me where it hurts. It's spectacular. It's
so funny.
For I don't know, it just seems like such nothing at the beginning, and then it comes back as the best payoff for a joke easily in the whole show.
100%.
Possibly any show I think I've ever seen.
100%. It's so good. I don't know how. I was watching their faces. They're both cracking up. There's no way that was the first take.
No, God, no.
Not a chance. Because it's so funny.
David Hyde Pierce does a really good job of not cracking up, I think, a lot of the time.
He does, actually, to be fair.
He never really did. Well, I mean, he's done stuff on Broadway, more serious things, which I guess maybe is partly that. If you do comedy on the stage,
do it live, I suppose,
you would need to learn to not crack up. But he's not really done. He's never done stand up or anything. But there are occasionally you'll see him doing an award show presentation or whatever.
Yeah,
and he kind of has a little bit of comedy by himself, and I don't know how he gets through it. Without. Which is so deadpan. He always does it live, spotless, not cracking up, not even a hint of a smile when he's telling these really, really funny jokes, and it's a gift.
It honestly is. He is a gift. He is a gift. Gift to all of us. But yeah, that I couldn't go by without mentioning that joke because it's so funny, absolutely hilarious. We have a few guest callers in this episode as well.
We do.
Do you want to do the rating first? How do we normally do it?
I can't remember. We'll do the guest callers.
So that's really bad.
So
it's our podcast. We should know this.
Well, see, it's our podcast. That means we can do it however we want.
That's a good point. Oh, yeah.
So we were doing it this way. We're talking guest
guest first.
Guest callers. So one actually we had mentioned before.
Oh yeah, of course.
Dr. J, Julius Irving, who was a basketball player for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
And the New York Nets, apparently. I Googled it. I don't know anything about basketball.
Sure.
As Mike, who calls and asks something, and he asks something about the Yankees. He asks something about the damn Yankees, which is the name of a play or a musical or something. And then Frasier says, if you're talking about the baseball team, I have no idea what you're talking about. But if you're talking about musical theater, and he calls him a weenie, and hangs up, which is very funny. So there was a reference to Julius Irving. Bulldog used Dr. Julius Irving as a fake name to pull a prank.
Back at the start of season 3.
Yeah, to pull a prank on Frasier.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. There's also a couple of calls from some sports commentators, famous sports commentators. Marv Albert, who is worried that the Seahawks are going to leave Seattle, and Bob Costas, who is wondering if Bulldog thinks that it was a good idea for the Sonics to give up their draft choices so they could free up some money to go after a wide body to help them in the paint.
Did you practice that?
I mean, I wrote it down.
It was just very well said.
Yeah. No, I didn't practice it.
No, okay. No, just checking.
I'm just very good at this.
You're just very talented.
Naturally very
talented.
good at
Good. Yeah, good few guest callers. The return of Dr. J. Sort of. Kinda.
Yeah.
What did you give the episode? Where did you come down on it?
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Because I would have given it a 5 if it weren't for the B plot with Martin and Daphne.
Interesting.
Taking it down a notch.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's very funny. It just feels like it takes away from the episode.
Yeah. Pretty much my thoughts exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went for a 4 out of 5 as well. I did note the Daphne and Martin stuff. But the problem is it doesn't really detract from the episode, I wouldn't say. But it also doesn't lead anywhere. It's just kind of there, and if it had been replaced with a bit more of like Bulldog or whoever, I think it would have been a lot funnier. So that I think they do miss a trick a little.
Yeah.
But I was impressed at how much I loved it compared to how much I used to. I sort of remember it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was going in thinking it was going to be a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
Probably the weakest on the disc. But actually, it's really quite funny.
Yeah, I definitely liked it more than I remembered.
Yeah. Good. I like when we revise our ratings.
Mm-hmm.
I like rewatching it and getting a new perspective on it.
Having a new light.
A new light to it. That's the whole purpose of this exercise and going through it and rewatching it and actually thinking about it, not just mindlessly rewatching it. Although that's fun too.
Yeah.
The next episode, bit of a controversial one, maybe a little bit.
I think so.
Touch. The Impossible Dream, which I was not paying attention and falsely wrote down as Freudian sleep, but that's actually a much later episode.
Yeah, that's in season 11.
It is. I totally forgot, and had to go and revise the title in my notes.
Yeah.
The Impossible Dream, referring to Frasier's recurring nightmare, I guess? Dream, nightmare, arguable.
Therein lies the controversy, is whether or not you would think of it as a nightmare.
Yeah. He has been having a tough time at work and can't really help anyone. All his callers are a bit rubbish. He's not able to get stuck into anyone properly and do any proper psychiatry. And alongside this, he's having this strange dream featuring fellow colleague Gil Chesterton, the lovely Gil Chesterton. The nature of the dream is perhaps a little bit raunchy, a little bit steamy.
Yeah,
you might say. The two of them in bed together. And they're trying to figure out basically what it means. The episode, Niles primarily is helping him out, what it means. Martin as well, trying to get to the bottom of it. Daphne has a theory about fish.
Get to the bottom of it.
Oh boy, that was not intentional. No. But I'll take it.
Okay. Will you now?
I have the power. I have the editing power. I will cut this.
You have the editing power.
However I like. May I carry on?
Yes, please continue.
Thank you. No, the episode, that's pretty much the crux of the episode. Mm-hmm. It kind of goes back and forward between the dreams. It changes slightly each time. Basically, Frasier thinks he's figured it out. He goes to sleep. He hasn't figured it out. And he has the dream again, just sort of slight variations, until the end where he does finally figure out what the dream is. Although that one's a bit steamy as well. That one's a bit, so Niles initially, Niles and everyone, I suppose, kind of mocks him for it.
Yeah.
Even Frasier himself kind of is a bit embarrassed and a bit ashamed about it.
Yeah.
More so because it's a man in his dream rather than the fact that it's a colleague in his dream.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a bit of a tightrope to walk.
I'm not I think that's part of the reason that I'm not that big on the episode. Like I say, there's not many around here that I think are bad. Yeah. I definitely don't think it's a bad episode. But I'm not sure how much I like that the conflict in the plot is just Frasier's gay panic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
Pretty much.
But at the same time, as much as there are lots of references to him potentially being gay, and there are quite a lot of like kind of gay jokes, they're not homophobic.
No.
There aren't, I think similar to what we said when we were talking about the matchmaker.
Yeah.
There aren't like offensive cracks made at the expense of gay people. It's just, I don't know, played for humor in a way that isn't offensive. And I am saying that not as a gay man. So
yeah.
My opinion on whether I think it's homophobic or not probably doesn't matter that much.
I think as far as some sitcoms and some sitcom episodes have gone, I think this is definitely on the tamer side.
Yeah.
But it is still, the joke revolves around, is Frasier gay or not? And I think it's a little bit dicey on, it doesn't quite address the issue that being gay is okay.
Yeah.
It kind of glosses over that, despite Edward Hibbert, who plays Gil Chesterton, and of course David Hyde Pierce, both being gay.
Yeah.
And Dan Butler as well, actually, I suppose, who as Bulldog. So, you got 3 prominent cast members, all gay, acting this episode. I'm not quite sure what the point I'm making is.
No, well,
it wasn't really that makes it okay, but it was more, I would like to think that between them, at least one of them, if there was something that they were particularly uncomfortable with, that they would be able to voice that and prevent it. I know at least Edward Hibbert has been out for his entire professional career, I believe I read.
Yeah.
So it's, it wasn't a secret. He would be hopefully forward and open with the writers and the directors, that if there was anything particularly bad, that they would address it. Coming back to, well, we mentioned it last week as well, actually, but coming back to the matchmaker, you said it about Homer's phobia, the episode of The Simpsons, where John Waters was brought in, again, another very prominent, openly gay man, was brought in as the guest star, and he had a voice on the set. He prevented the writers from using certain lines, certain very offensive lines, to be fair, that they obviously didn't appreciate, were very offensive. So I guess it's a sign of the times that we are now looking back on it and kind of hoping that is the case.
Yeah.
But it was a different time back then. And obviously it was not, I mean, it's still not overly welcoming, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things, but even less so back then for gay people to kind of stand up and address it. And I think that's a shame, and that's when I don't like episodes like these, because it's like they were, well, to be fair, I don't know if they were written by a gay man. I don't know, so I don't want to comment. But by and large, episodes like these in sitcoms are written by straight people.
Yeah.
And they're making jokes about things that they probably don't fully understand, or in some cases respect.
Yeah.
And that's my concern with this episode. I mean, we're both straight men, so ultimately our opinions on the matter,
they aren't all that valuable. Although I do want to put a little plug, and I actually meant to mention it in the matchmaker, and I'll probably wind up mentioning it again in other episodes that kind of center around gay culture. But there is a series on YouTube called Culture Cruise. It's hosted by a guy called Matt Baum, and he kind of talks about like gay culture and gay representation largely in TV shows, especially sitcoms around this era. And he did several episodes on Frasier, and they're very, very interesting. And I just want to put a quick plug in there. If you're looking for a more informed take on the matter, I suggest giving him a look, because really very interesting. And
I've not seen that, so I will do that and give it a watch, because it's very interesting.
I think he did one on homophobia, and I think he's done episodes on other American sitcoms kind of talking about like gay episodes. I think Golden Girls had quite a few. It was quite well known as like not a gay sitcom, but like it had lots of individual episodes talking about it, and there's questions about whether the representation was really there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting stuff, and it comes from a much better informed source.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I'm talking, and as I'm talking, I'm kind of like, I'm probably not the best person to be, you know, going on like this. I'm giving my 2 cents. Ultimately, it's not my place to say, so I would like also to make that clear as well. But no, let's get back to the episode at hand. It is still very good, I feel. Mm-hmm. I think it is still a strong episode, even if you take out the sort of gay undertones, I suppose. Yeah. I'll try that again. At the expense of sort of gay men in particular. Mm-hmm. I think it is a strong episode. I think it's unique. I think it's well directed and well paced. The sort of back and forward between Frasier's dream and him sort of addressing different things. He addresses whether it was a Freudian dream, whether it was about his diet, and then ultimately the resolution is that he's just been struggling with work, and he wanted to create a problem in himself so complicated that it kept his mind busy.
Yep.
And he's greeted in his dream by none other than Dr. Sigmund Freud, who climbs into bed with him.
I think it's quite a funny ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the mouth spray.
Yes.
Climbs into bed with him.
We have work to do.
Yeah. It is good. It is good. My favourite and possibly contender for highlight of this disc is after the second time they think they've resolved the dream. Frasier has yet another dream featuring Gil. It is after the second time. It's after the Freud. He believes it's a Freudian dream.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Freudian. Oedipal, where you want to kill your father and sleep with your mother.
Yeah.
You guys know it.
Yeah. Dude stuff.
Just guy stuff. Just bros being bros.
Yeah.
He believes it's that. Goes back to sleep, and in his dream he starts shouting out "Mom" and "Mummy," and Gil emerges from the shower and shouts "Patience, Daddy." And it's so good. The way he says it is so good. It's like it's an actual command. He's giving Frasier an actual like command. The way he says it. It's like patience. It's so good. I love it. I love Gil. I want more of Gil.
He is really good.
He's so funny. Edward Hibbert just absolutely nails it.
He's also surprisingly in good shape. Is something that I noticed. He comes out wearing a towel.
I can't say I noticed, but...
well, it's just, he's a food critic, and he kind of, I don't know, because he comes across as very flamboyant, it didn't really, he doesn't look like the type to be, like, athletic. But then you see him, and he's just wearing a towel, and he's like, I don't know, he looked surprisingly built. He looked quite beefy, which shocked me. I don't know.
This week I'm going to try tag Edward Hibbert on Twitter, and I'm going to tell him that you think he's beefy.
I do think he's beefy. I'm going to see if we can get beefy Edward Hibbert on the podcast.
I think he just seems like a really cool dude. Honestly, I think he seems like a really chill guy. Like a cool dude. He was in a play with Harriet Harris. Was he? As well. Yeah.
There you go.
How about that? We could get the two of them on.
Yeah.
That'd be a dream. That would be an absolute dream. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. But
I doubt it.
Anyway. What did you think?
So I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I do like some of the jokes in it. I like some of the humor overall, but I'm not, like I have said, I'm not big on the fact that the only kind of conflict and plot that's driving the episode is just Frasier having a bit of a gay panic.
Yeah.
I don't dislike the way that they handle it. Frasier kind of embraces it for briefly. starts to think of it as an option. Maybe that is what he's looking at subconsciously, is that he's trying to tell himself that he is gay. And he says, oh, I didn't go in for sports and I'm very sensitive and whatever. And it's like these kind of cliches of being gay.
He does address it as cliches, though. He does address it as like, these are stereotypes of being gay.
And it's not the first time that someone in the show has thought that he was gay.
Yeah.
There's probably lots of people who are familiar with the show but don't really watch it that probably do think that the character of Frasier is gay without,
perhaps,
if they've not engaged with it. I certainly wouldn't be surprised, because I think he does fit into a lot of these arguably quite offensive stereotypes, but he fits into them. And I kind of like the way that they address that, and it's this recognition after panicking for so long and refusing to accept it. He does seem a little bit more willing to embrace that. Like, if it is the case, it would make sense. And I don't know, I like that, because I feel like it stops it from feeling too offensive.
I like Martin's approach to it as well, because he's obviously John Mahoney probably is quite accepting. He's been in the theatre and everything, and obviously there were questions about his sexuality, none of our business. But he, as a person, I imagine, is quite accepting and quite open to everything. But Martin is played very, generational. He doesn't want to talk about these kind of things. He's not really open to it. But for Frasier, he does eventually sit down and they talk about it. And he kind of says, like, well, yeah, I did kind of think about it. I did consider it when you were younger, because, yes, you did fit into a lot of these stereotypes. But ultimately, well, no, I don't think you are gay, because you would know, kind of thing. Your big yap would have told you by now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I totally agree with the you would know, because I think it's something that people do struggle with a bit. Again, not our place to say. I need to put just a disclaimer at the top of the episode rather than keep repeating myself. But yeah, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. But I do think it's a nice moment between them. I do think they handle it pretty well, and probably better than 70% of the episode. Maybe 70% is maybe a wee bit harsh. 50%.
50%.
A little bit down.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
I gave it a low 4. So probably just a little bit higher than where you put it. But I felt it was better than a 3 because of the unique style of the episode and the plot, the way that it's told, because of the jokes in it. I think some of them are very funny. I love, like, Edward Hibbert's embracing of him being in Frasier's dream.
Oh yeah,
he comes and makes jokes about it. Roz and Bulldog as well. When Bulldog appears, he comes to take the piss out of Frasier for having a boring show, I think.
Yeah.
And Frasier kind of openly says, "Yeah, you know about my dream. Come on, let me have it. Joke about it, whatever." And Bulldog says, "Whoa, I didn't know, but I know now." I want to hear about you greasing Gil's cookie sheets. Which I think's very good.
Yeah.
And it's got some good lines as well. Martin trying to convince, when Frasier was younger, trying to convince him not to go and see West Side Story.
Because of the gangs.
Because of the gangs. Like, gangs are scary. Even gangs that dance. Especially gangs that dance. So it has some really good moments. I like it. And I want to draw attention to the credit sequence as well, because we mentioned it before.
Yeah.
God knows how long ago. I'll tell you how long ago it would have been.
Author.
I was going to ask. I was going to ask if you knew what episode it was, but you did, so that's fine. The sequence at the end of Author is Eddie jumping up on the kitchen counter, trying to steal a muffin. And in this episode, Eddie has a dream about jumping up and trying to claim a muffin.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it.
He looks very defeated. It's really sad.
Yeah.
He kind of plods out of the kitchen and then collapses on the floor. He didn't get his muffin. I came away feeling quite like
poor boy,
upset about it.
I'm gonna give your own dog a muffin just so that he doesn't feel left out.
My dog doesn't need muffins, man. He's getting fat. He's getting too big. Gonna put him on a diet. Low carb muffin, maybe. But no, yeah, I think it's a good episode. It's certainly not worthy any lower than a 3. Definitely not. No. I think even with every criticism that we've given it. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's a couple of guest callers. We're switching it up. We're going to keep you on your toes.
Oh,
we're going to do this rating and then the guest callers.
Going back to guest callers. Yes, there are. So there's 2 guest callers and there's a notable it's not really a guest appearance, just a minor appearance from someone who became famous later on.
I wonder if you noted down the same person I did.
I think I did. It's the same person whose IMDb page you've currently got open. But
yeah, yes. that would be it.
So Frasier has been complaining about the fact that there aren't good callers coming in for his show. He's not getting anyone interesting. 2 of the not interesting calls are Jimmy, who is 14 and is complaining because he thinks his parents are stupid, who is played by Kieran Culkin, who was in Home Alone when he was very, very young.
Yep.
More recently was in...
Is he the one in Succession?
He's in Succession.
He's the one in Succession, yeah.
And he was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World as well. He plays...
Wallace.
Wallace, yeah, I was going to say. They all have alliterative names, I couldn't remember. Wallace Wells. I like Kieran Culkin. I think he's really funny.
I think he's good. Yeah, he's got a good bit of humor.
He's only in this very briefly, but still.
What's the other... There's Macaulay Culkin, obviously. Is it Rory Culkin?
I think that sounds right.
Other brother?
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with the Culkins.
I can't remember.
And there's also Christopher Durang, who is he plays Rudy the Crier, which is really funny. Yeah. He watches a sad movie and he calls in crying, and it's because he's the only caller. Frasier just kind of has to put him on the air.
Take him, yeah.
So he didn't do an awful lot of acting outside of, I think, a few minor appearances. He was never really in anything that big, but he is later on in an episode of Frasier.
Oh,
Christopher Durang. He is in the season 6 episode of The Seal Who Came to Dinner.
Oh,
as one of the other members of Niall's dinner party club or whatever it is, who has an allergy to bivalves, which he complains about when he's offered a scallop or something.
Oh, wait till we get to that episode.
That's a funny episode.
We're gonna have a right laugh. Yeah.
So there you go. But also, as I mentioned, minor appearance by Polly Perrette, who is, I think, probably most well known
best known,
for playing Abby in NCIS.
Yeah.
Which isn't something I've ever really watched.
I've watched but my partner enjoys it. So I've watched a fair chunk of it, actually. Yeah. It's surprisingly addictive.
Do you like it?
It's not very good, but it's surprisingly addictive.
It's like kind of murder mystery type thing, isn't it?
It's
sort of like a crime.
No,
CSI?
I was surprised. It's the Navy.
Yeah.
It's all Navy cases.
Right.
I was like, how the hell do you make an entire show out of cases at sea? But they find a way. The cast is all very good, but we won't talk about the main actor, who is, not a very nice person, apparently.
Oh, there you go.
A couple of things came out recently.
Oh, boy.
Don't want to give him the attention.
Okay. I'll not do that.
But this, it's a pretty popular show.
If the main actor in that's problematic, don't bother watching that. I say go back and watch Columbo. In my opinion, Peter Falk can do no wrong. Just go watch. I love a bit of Columbo. Anyway, right. So we'll move on.
Let's not get too dragged down.
Yeah.
Okay. The next episode, let me just double check, is A Crane's Critique.
Mm-hmm.
Frasier and Niles are in what I think one of the nicest openings, one of the more refreshing openings of an episode. They're sitting outside in Cafe Nervosa. It just feels very fresh. I like it. Scott Martin and Roz, they just kind of come together. They're sitting having a coffee. They have some jokes at each other. Really like it. They spot across the street T.H. Houghton, a famous author who wrote one book and then nothing for, I think, what did they say, like 20, 30 years?
I think maybe even more than that.
Quite a while. Basically, he wrote the book and then went into not hiding, but just lived a very subdued life, I suppose, by himself. They try and chase him down, stop off at a pub because Martin's bored, and Martin ends up bumping into him, and the two hit it off and become pretty good friends. Much to Frasier and Niles' annoyance, they don't feel that he is worthy of Martin's friendship. But honestly, it's probably quite refreshing for T.H. Houghton. I think it's implied that the book that he wrote is very sort of intellectual and well.
It's a bit of a kind of an American classic, I think.
Yeah,
I think the way I've always seen it, and there are people who might think that he's inspired by other people, but I've always assumed that he was inspired by J.D. Salinger.
I was going to say,
who wrote Catcher in the Rye. So I think I've always kind of just thought of the Time Flies Tomorrow, the name of the book that T.H. Houghton had supposedly written, was. I always just kind of compare that to Catcher in the Rye. So I'm like, what was that, late 40s, early 50s?
About that,
Considered an American classic. So I just align the two in my head.
But he's kind of just, I think he's in town for a conference or something, or he's just for a week or a short time, and he is looking for friends. He doesn't have any friends, and he wants someone to sit and watch the baseball with, or the football, or whatever.
I think it's baseball.
And have a beer. And who better to sit and have a beer and watch sports than Martin Crane? So the two of them hit it off. And honestly, it's another one of those episodes where our main cast is just horrible.
Yeah.
Frasier and Niles are just really just unpleasant people in this episode.
Yeah.
They're very pushy towards T.H. Houghton. They're trying very hard to get his attention and be his friend, and they can't just relax. They can't just take a breath and be present with him. They keep seeing him as this high-class celebrity that they're trying to get the attention of. They're cruel to Martin. They don't believe that he's worthy of T.H. Houghton's friendship. And then at the end of the episode, they steal T.H. Houghton's briefcase and read the manuscript for his new book behind his back, which is just so...
Oh, it's horrible.
Just...
terrible thing to do.
What's the word? I don't have words for it. Uncouth. That's a good word.
That's a good word for it.
It's... Yeah. I marked it down for that, honestly.
Yeah, so did I. I think there's good jokes, and I think that the pacing and the writing are good. I think as pretty much any episode of Frasier is.
Yeah, it's not a bad episode.
But yeah, I've said before, the thing I don't like about one of the tropes in Frasier episodes that I never like is just when the conflict is entirely caused by Frasier and or Niles being jackasses.
Pretty much.
And this is really one of the best examples.
Yep. Absolutely. The insufferable was the word that I noted down.
Yeah.
Throughout the episode. But around that, I like seeing Martin making friends.
Yeah.
The episode is about Frasier and Niles. Martin's kind of a side character in this episode. He doesn't have a lot of focus. He's just kind of in and out with Teddy, his friend, T.H. Houghton. But I kind of like seeing that. I like seeing that Martin has a life outside of these crazy situations that Frasier and Niles always seem to get him into. I like Daphne in this episode.
Yeah.
She feels very settled as part of the family. And I think it starts to show prominently from here on in that she is part of the family. She is very comfortable around them. She blackmails Frasier.
She does.
When they
very casually.
They start reading the book, and she comes through and says, "How dare you? What will Mr. Crane say when he finds out about this?" Of course, if I'm not around to tell him about this, if I had the day off and some money to go and spend. So Frasier gives her the day off.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sly of her.
It is. It's so funny.
But it's... she's got another great line. I just noticed and wrote it down. When Frasier and Niles come back from the art gallery, and they talk about looking at a painting called, what is it, A Woman with a Rectangular Head.
Yeah.
And Daphne sits up from her cleaning and says, "Oh, was Mrs. Foster in the lobby again?" I don't know why it's so funny.
Mrs. Foster with a rectangular head.
I just love the idea of this really like ugly old woman who lives in the building with a square head.
Perfectly rectangular head.
Yeah. But my favourite thing, probably my favourite thing in this episode is how well they sum up, Niles in particular, but Niles and Frasier's pretentiousness in one scene.
Mm-hmm.
When they sit down to read the manuscript, Niles wants Frasier to adjust the lighting in the room. And he starts to do so, and as Frasier twists the knob, Niles says, "No, slightly darker. No, slightly lighter. No, bit darker. Oh, bit warmer." And Frasier eventually gives up and just walks off. He stops touching the light and walks off. But Niles keeps going, and he keeps saying, "No, slightly. No, just a touch brighter. No, just a little bit darker." And eventually says, "Oh yeah, that's perfect. Having the light hasn't been touched for the last, 5 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not that long, but you know what I mean." And I think that's a really, really solid metaphor for their pretentiousness.
Yeah,
because they are so enamored by like the high life, by all these fancy things, despite knowing nothing about them and not really caring at all. They just want that. They want the high profile that comes with knowing these things and having their wine club and going to the opera and doing the art galleries and whatever else. But they don't actually notice or care about it all. And I'd never noticed that before.
It's a very good point.
I really liked it. That's a good metaphor. Solid writing.
Good job.
Thank you. What are you looking at?
I can't read that from here. I'm trying to read who the writer was.
T.H. Houghton?
No, the writers of the episode.
It was Dan Cohen and F.J. Pratt.
There you go.
Oh, we were shouting out the writers.
I was,
doing such a good job. Sorry, okay. I wasn't sure what you were getting at. Yeah. Fine. I don't think the guest actor in this one's that great.
Robert Prosky.
Who plays T.H. Houghton.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because his character is supposed to be played as a bit of a grumpy old man.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously does that well.
Yeah.
But I just find the character a wee bit boring.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's a bit one-dimensional because that's kind of all he is. He's sort of just another Martin in a lot of ways. And I think that's part of the point, is that he's supposed to be reflecting a lot of Martin's personality.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's not really much depth to the character.
No.
I think I quite like Robert Prosky in it. I don't necessarily think he's a bad actor. I just, you don't see the character doing much. He's not got much to work with.
Oh yeah, so, I'd say if his goal was going for the grumpy old man who likes beer and baseball, I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
But just that as a character is just not overly interesting. They didn't have much to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
The episode concludes with him. Frasier and Niles give their review on the manuscript, despite getting in trouble for Martin for reading it in the first place. Yeah. And T.H. Houghton kind of takes that to heart. It wasn't what he wanted to hear, despite their review being very positive.
Yeah.
It wasn't what he wanted. It reflected Dante's Inferno
too
heavily. So he kind of gives up and walks out with his dignity intact as a piece of his manuscript is stuck to his shoe. Yeah. Poor guy. But he kind of, I don't know, that whole scene, he's supposed to be very emotional and very, like, upset about it, and he kind of storms off. But I don't really care.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like,
I don't really feel much.
Fine. He was a bit of a jerk the whole episode. I'm not saying he deserved to have his manuscript spoiled, but I also don't really care that he did. I've spoken a lot about this episode and not given you much of a chance to interject. I apologise.
I honestly don't have much to add on the episode.
Yeah.
I really don't have many notes on it, to be honest.
It's kind of there, isn't it?
Very small, one paragraph little note, basically.
It's kind of just there. It's fine. I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
Very middle of the road. Not awful. Some good moments. Not great.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Good.
Same opinion there.
I'm going to move on then, straight away, unless we've got any guests. We mentioned Robert Prosky, but no one else. Now, next episode. Head Game. Excellent episode.
This is a good episode. Similar to Moondance, end of season 3, it's quite light on the Frasier
Light episode.
He appears...
Which is actually the name of an episode later on.
Frasier Light, it is. There you go.
Never thought about that. Sorry, that's
true.
Carry on.
There you go. Yes, he is. And I assumed that it was because he was directing again, but he isn't.
No.
I don't think it's very polite to get into why he wasn't in the episode. If you're really interested, you can Google it.
Oh, was there a reason?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't bother looking.
Do you want me to tell you and you can bleep it
out? Yeah, go on then. Oh, right.
So he had to take a bit of time off and didn't appear for much in the episode. Anyway, so Frasier is going away to a conference, a radio psychiatrist conference in Aspen.
How many radio psychiatrists can there be?
Presumably enough. I don't know. I don't think that's something we have here.
I've never in real life heard of a radio psychiatrist.
Nope. No, neither have I.
And yet there's enough of them to have a gathering in Aspen.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So yeah, they're having a gathering, having a conference. Frasier is going away to that and he needs someone to fill in for him on the radio. And he enlists Niles, who has done it before.
He did.
Briefly.
Did a good job.
He did, yeah. Once he got into the swing of things, he did a pretty good job. Yep. So he's back here at KACL doing his radio thing again. And winds up meeting Bulldog's guest, Reggie McLemore. Who is a basketballer. For the... No, not the... Oh, I should know.
You should know.
Seahawks is football.
Yep.
Mariners is baseball.
Yep.
It's the...
It's not nautical themed.
I can't remember.
The Kraken is hockey.
And the Kraken is hockey. We talked about that.
The Seattle Sonics.
Oh, the Sonics.
Is the basketball team. Or was. I don't know if they still are.
No idea.
I don't watch basketball.
I mentioned earlier that I don't know anything about basketball. So there you go. So he's, yes, for the Seattle Sonics. But he's having difficulty with his game. He's been in a bit of a slump and decides when he meets Niles, this is a perfect opportunity to have a quick chat with a psychiatrist, see if he can offer any insight. And after Niles offering a brief session before he has his little guest spot on Bulldog's show, Reggie goes on to do very well in his basketball match that evening. Here, I didn't even know it was basketball season. And he does very well. Niles then gets credited with the win, basically. Reggie says, I wasn't doing well, but it's all thanks to Niles Crane that I'm doing well, and gives him a shout out, and everyone starts worshipping Niles, and he gets tickets to the next game. Reggie then isn't doing well. Yet again, he's back in his slump and he doesn't know what's going on. And he realizes that it's not anything to do with the advice that he's being given. It's that Niles' head is a good luck charm because he tousled his hair after their first session. And then he does it again when Niles shows up to the game.
His very own lucky rabbit's foot.
And goes on to do very well. Niles has an issue with this because of his ethics. He's getting credit for being a good psychiatrist when he isn't actually offering any help as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He's just, I think he even says, he refers to himself as a rabbit's foot, a glorified rabbit's foot, or something like that.
Yeah.
So he feels like he's taking credit for something that he shouldn't, and that's in a breach of his ethics, so he has to stop receiving this credit and all the free tickets, and much to Martin's distaste.
Yeah.
Martin no longer has his wonderful courtside season tickets.
Which is a shame, because I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one. A lot of the times I do side on the side of Frasier and Niles when they have a moral conflict.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, most of the time, they're right in the end. Not all the time. But here, I don't know. I don't know where I stand on it, to be honest. Because Niles is right. He's not the one actually helping through the means that people believe he is.
Yeah.
But he is still helping.
Mm-hmm.
Martin says at the end, like, what did you want to do? Help him. What are you doing? Helping him.
Yeah.
I'm getting my coat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what is it? So why are you upset because people think you're a good psychiatrist? Well, you are a good psychiatrist. So what's the problem?
Exactly.
You know? And I agree with that, but I think it's still, especially with like psychiatry, you need to have that level of credibility. And I think I can see why he would not want to be getting false praise when it comes to his profession, because I think that's a very delicate thing, is like you're standing as a psychiatrist. To feel that that's not valid could potentially throw off how he feels about the entire rest of his career. But I don't know. Not a psychiatrist. So I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I kind of weighed it up. I'm not really sure where I stand on the whole thing. Yeah. But it leads to a very entertaining episode.
It does. I think this is a very funny episode. I really like Reggie. I think he's a good little side character.
Played by Lorenzo Newton, who has done very little before or since, unfortunately, because I think he's absolutely phenomenal.
I think he's really funny.
I think he plays off against David Hyde Pierce really, really well. There's something about like the comedic timing between the two it's so funny. It's really, really solid. So it's a shame that he's not done more since.
Yeah.
But anyway, leads to a great episode. We've got really great moments with Roz and Niles.
Yeah.
Obviously, as he's working at KCL, he's going to bump into Roz. She's doing the show for him, blah, blah, blah. And the two of them have this nice antagonistic friendship.
Yeah.
That is just kind of, it just continues. And it I think this season is when it starts to become a friendship.
Yeah.
They still take jabs at each other, but it's very good natured.
Yeah.
They both know that ultimately they are friends.
Yeah. The first few seasons they dislike each other.
Yeah.
And Roz makes an effort to avoid Niles on quite a few occasions, or complains that he's there, doesn't like having him there. Whereas here they are a lot more pally. They still have that kind of, I don't know if you say it's a rivalry, because they're not competing.
No.
But it's a lot more of a, good-natured. They make fun of each other, but they're both happy about it.
Yeah.
They're happy to get the cracks.
They give as good as they get.
Yeah, exactly.
For each of them, for each of the jokes.
Very well put.
Thank you. And Bulldog as well. Bulldog gives Niles a compliment.
He does.
Which is very funny. Not in a ha-ha way, in like that's very strange.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit out of character for him. He's always coming in and insulting Frasier and making a joke. He kind of goes out of his way to make Niles feel good that he didn't do a bad job.
Yeah.
Which is, out of character for Bulldog.
Not very Bulldog. But he walks in and just immediately says, I suppose the highest compliment for Bulldog, I would think, is, "Oh, I caught the end of your show. It didn't suck."
Yeah.
That's...
For something like psychiatry, if he says it doesn't suck, that's pretty high praise.
Pretty high praise.
So that's, I like that. The scene at the start, actually, you glossed over it a little bit, but the scene where Frasier calls in his mark, I think he calls it,
Oh, yeah.
For why Niles has to take the job. He's hesitant initially, but Frasier calls in the favour that he gave previously, and it was for dating Maris's sister, Bree.
You only spent one evening with Bree.
You don't see much to Maris's character. We don't see any of Bree either, but we get a full kind of idea of what she's like in this short scene. So he takes her out to dinner and then to the opera, and at the opera her ermine muff starts to tremble, and it turns out she had smuggled in her pet chihuahua, as Kelsey Grammer enunciates. Little Hervé.
The adorably incontinent Hervé.
Incontinent Hervé. Oh, what a shame. Poor thing.
I know.
And then she starts to lick Frasier's ear.
Oh, God. Oh.
At which point Frasier screams. But thankfully, it was drowned out on stage by the sound of Gandolfo's death. Yeah, it's a wonderful little scene, and Kelsey Grammer doing what he does best, and just enunciating these little unfunny words to make them funny is priceless. It's really great. And
I think Chihuahua was a pretty funny word to begin with. I think it's a pretty funny
the way
word.
he says it's much funnier.
Yeah.
Chihuahua. And that's all we get of Frasier in this episode. He's not even in Moondance. He's at the start and he's at the end.
Yeah.
But here he's just brief scene at the start and then the episode ends without him coming back. Very good. What did you give it?
I gave it a 4.
Ooh.
I was tempted to give it a 5.
Okay.
But personally, I think it is missing certain something that I can't even put my finger on. Or
certain je ne sais quoi.
I couldn't even tell you what it is that I think it's missing. But personally, I just don't think it quite earns that elusive 5th cup.
It's missing Frasier. So it's missing.
It is. Maybe that is what it is.
Maybe a little bit of Frasier it could do with. But alas, I still give it a 5.
Yeah.
I still gave it a 5. I really love this episode. I think it's really solid. I think Frasier's absence leads to some of the best episodes of Frasier. Ironically.
Yeah.
But Niles gets a chance to shine, and I think even in comparison to his first solo quote unquote episode in Moondance, he kind of gets more of the forefront here. In the previous episode, it's kind of shared between him, Daphne, and Martin.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I think the focus it feels more on Niles.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
He gets scenes by himself without the rest of the family. Whereas in Moondance, he doesn't really. We had another brief glitch there. We are back once again. That's 2 in one episode. Don't like that.
No.
It's becoming a trend.
Yeah.
Having to stop and start. Oh, it's not this episode. What?
Stop starts.
Stop starts.
Stop
that. Yeah, so I gave it a 5 out of 5. I think it's a very good episode. It's one of my favourites. And I think there's so much in it to love.
Yeah.
I think there's just
so
many good jokes and guest stars and, pop-ups from like Bulldog and Martin and everything. It's just very good. Very good. One other interesting thing to mention, I think it's interesting, whether it is or not. Going on from what I said about Daphne feeling very comfortable, when they're at the basketball game, Martin is using all these sports terms to describe the game.
Yeah.
And Daphne translates these to Niles via terms that would be appropriate at the opera.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting because she's not. This is probably the start of her being shown as very cultured but down to earth as well.
Mm-hmm.
She goes out, she enjoys the opera, she enjoys going to the Empire Club and getting dressed up and going to the balls and everything.
Yeah.
But she also likes sitting down in front of the TV, having a beer.
Mm-hmm.
She likes going to the basketball and the football and whatever else. And I like that. And I like that it shows that. And we do see more of that going forward. The kind of both sides of Daphne, I suppose.
Yeah.
And seeing her as an in-between and just, yeah, very comfortable as part of the family.
Yeah, it's nice.
Not like, I wanted to say she knows her place. That seems very aggressive. Like,
No, yeah, she knows that she is part of the family.
But yeah, in a very positive way, she knows her place. She knows where she stands with everyone, and yeah, is very settled. And I like that.
Yeah.
That's very good. Any guests?
Yes, there is. There is one guest. So we only see a little bit of Niles actually doing his radio psychiatry bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets a call from a woman called Linda, who is complaining that her, I can't even remember if she gives a name, someone who she is close with is causing her a lot of grief,
mm-hmm.
and she puts him on the phone to talk to Niles. And Niles says, you're not going to solve this problem by not eating. You're being very stubborn. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And then from the other end of the phone, you hear a meow. And it is revealed that Linda, the person that Linda was having a feud with, was her cat.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. Linda is played by Wendy Wasserstein, who is a screenwriter.
Oh, nice.
Not from anything that I knew especially well, but she's a screenwriter.
Good.
There you are.
I like when they bring in non-actors.
Yeah.
And other kinds of celebrities.
Yeah.
To do guest spots. It just keeps it a bit fresh.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, it's nice. That's nice. Good. Solid scores so far. No dips below a 3.
Nope.
We come to the final episode.
Definitely not dipping below a 3 for me here.
Absolutely not. Mixed doubles.
Yeah.
I think we joked about this episode as well a little bit. We mentioned Rodney at least.
Yeah.
Daphne, unfortunately, has been dumped by Joe, who has still been her boyfriend since Kisses Sweeter Than Wine?
Yep.
Back in season 3. We saw him again the last disc of season 3.
No, we only see him twice.
Disc?
Second disc.
Third disc.
Second disc. Last episode of the second disc.
And third.
Come Lie With Me. I don't think he's actually in the third one, is he?
That's the third disc, is it not? Come Lie With Me.
No, second disc.
Yeah,
it's the one before Moondance.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he doesn't even make his final appearance, unfortunately.
No, we don't see him.
That was his final appearance back in Come Lie With Me. He gets an off-screen exit, breaking up with Daphne and going off to, well, as we learn soon, actually, going off to get married very quickly, within a few weeks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, more about that, I guess, later. Daphne's pretty upset. Initially, she isn't. She's kind of taken it all in, but has a bit of a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Roz is there to. I don't know why Roz is there. Actually, does it say why Roz is there?
Yeah, she comes over for some reason.
She just stops by. She doesn't often stop by, but happens. Maybe she heard the Roz signal in the sky.
Yeah. People having bad.
A woman has been dumped. Bad relationship troubles. Who do you call? Roz.
To the Rosmobile.
To the Rosmobile. That was a really dumb bit. I don't know
that was.
why I rolled with that for so long. Right. She pops over and she's able to help Daphne out. Well, tries to help Daphne out a wee bit, but eventually takes her out for drinks and makes her feel better. They go to a singles bar and she finds a young man named Rodney. Let me get a surname.
Banks. Rodney Banks.
Oh, you do get a surname?
Yep.
Oh, well, there you go. That's why you're the younger brother.
Yeah.
And sort of sideways to this, Niles is also, now that Daphne's single, weighing up, confessing to her his feelings. Frasier talks him out of it. Rather, not aggressively, but pretty quickly. He's pretty quickly to say, no, don't do this.
Yeah.
Do you not feel?
Yeah, he is.
Because there's not really... He says, he and Maris are not getting back together. They've pretty much accepted that they are separated.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne's now single. What's the harm, really?
Yeah.
But Frasier's quite apprehensive and talks him out of it, and thus leads Daphne to meeting Rodney that night. Niles is pretty crushed, but he rebounds and goes out with Roz the following night and meets someone himself, the lovely Adele.
Yeah.
With 2 L's.
Yeah.
Very strange spelling. I don't think I've ever seen Adele with 2 L's.
I don't think I've met many people called Adele, though, to be fair. I mean, I don't think I've actually... Oh, no,
Have you met an Adele?
I've met an Adelaide.
Does she go by Adele?
No.
Then doesn't count, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Why'd you mention it? Doesn't count.
Because for a second...
It's a separate name. That's like saying, have I met an Adele? I've met a bloke named John. Does he go by Adele? No, he goes by Joe. I'm like, well...
It's because she goes by Addie. And my first thought was that was short for Adele, but it's not short for Adelaide.
But you knew it was short for Adelaide.
I did, but I forgot, because this isn't someone I know particularly well. Clearly, because I don't know her name.
Whatever. Right.
Moving on.
Yes, we meet the lovely Adele with 2 L's. And we have a bit of a, as Martin puts it, Twilight Zone incident, as we're introduced to Rodney morning, I guess, afternoon, whatever.
Yeah.
Meeting at Frasier's apartment. Rodney and Daphne show up, Niles and Adele show up, and they all have a big meeting, and we find out that Rodney is Niles' doppelganger.
Yeah.
They do a very good job with the casting, I think, here.
Yes.
You instantly know the joke. As soon as he walks through the door,
you know what they're doing.
In a classic Niles step into the room, you know what the joke is.
Yeah.
Which is difficult to get right sometimes, I think. But they absolutely nail it. And quickly Niles realizes this and is pretty distraught because he realizes, well, Daphne's going for someone like that. Why did she not go for me?
Yeah.
And
which has cemented my theory that I've been talking about for the past however many episodes. What is this, episode 13? Yep. Where I think Daphne is at least subconsciously aware of Niles' feelings and to quite a large degree feels the same way. I think she's very clearly drawn to a man, not just like Niles, but basically just Niles.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is even her trying to manifest the fact that she is actually in love with Niles.
Potentially. Who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on it and see how it goes, eh?
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, Niles is he's angry. He's angry at Frasier for talking him out of it. He's just kind of generally annoyed that it's not him in Rodney's shoes. But we round off the episode with, well, no, not quite, sorry. Hold on. Getting ahead of myself. They go to Cafe Nervosa and Frasier and Niles sit and kind of make up, I suppose, and spot Adele and Rodney kissing and smooching in the corner.
Yeah.
And this leads to what I think is one of the most underplayed moments in the disc, in the season, in the show. It's really, really sweet and noticeable, but just played as kind of a dumb joke. And that's when Niles turns around and notices Adele, his girlfriend, and Rodney, Daphne's boyfriend, kissing. He stands up and he says, how dare he treat Daphne like that?
Yeah.
And it's played as a joke. The audience laughs. Frasier says, hold on, Niles, don't go and fight him, kind of thing. It'll be too weird. And it's kind of just played off. It's not focused or anything. But that's really quite sweet the fact that his first thought, nothing to do with himself, nothing to do with him and Adele's relationship, but this man is hurting Daphne.
Yeah.
How dare he? And that's really sweet. I think that's really, really... It shows that he does genuinely care for Daphne.
Yeah.
It's not a... It is sometimes played as a little bit on the creepy side when he's, smelling her hair or watching her bend over and stuff. You could, it's a little bit unseemly. But here it's pure love. It's pure... He's thinking only about her, not even himself.
Yeah. It's not about even him wanting to be with her.
Yeah.
Like, physically or romantically. It's just he wants what is best for her. He wants, thinking about her well-being, which is the purest form of love, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's very sweet.
Yeah, I really like that. And we do fight. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and then that's carried on, I think, into the final scene.
Yeah.
Niles plans on breaking the news delicately to Daphne about what has happened himself, because he says it'll probably sound better if it comes from a friend, and goes to meet Daphne. And then it's revealed that Daphne called Rodney and found out from him. So presumably just so that the audience doesn't have to hear the whole thing spelled out twice.
Pretty much, yeah.
But they sit in the bar, the same bar that they had met their respective partners, the same bar that Roz had taken them to. They sit next to each other, they have a glass of wine together, and they just sit and have a kind of heart-to-heart about how they felt about their relationships and what they were looking for in relationships, and how... if it had been a different time in their lives and they had met each other, they probably would have made a great couple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sweet. And Niles kind of makes this, I suppose it's a joke in that he's trying to make Daphne laugh, but also he is being very serious, where he goes through what he would have said if he had met her for the first time and they weren't in this complicated relationship.
Yeah.
Kind of just saying, oh, what are you doing for the rest of your life? And it's very sweet, and Daphne laughs and tells him that she loves him.
Yeah.
And in a platonic way, but in a very genuine way as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And he, of course, reciprocates that, and I suppose it means a little bit more to the audience than it would mean to Daphne, but it's a very sweet ending.
It is. It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
A little bit. With kind of Niles obviously going there willing to say his piece and confess his feelings, but Daphne not quite being ready to receive that. But it's still, it's a very nice scene, and it's very genuine. I don't know, it's very well acted, the two of them together. Jane Leeves and David Hyde Pierce make a great pairing together.
It's something I actually probably should have mentioned earlier on in the episode, because we've talked about Daphne and Jane Leeves for a bit. It's Jane Leeves' birthday today.
Is it?
Time of recording.
Excellent. Happy birthday, Jane Leeves.
Happy birthday, Jane Leeves.
Make sure and don't eat too much cake.
Yeah.
Because your tummy will be sore. That's my message to esteemed actor Jane Leeves. Don't eat too much cake.
Very well put.
So eloquent, my way with words, isn't it? Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, off the back of all our Twitter goings on recently, there was a post that I noticed saying, wanting people to post their cancelable Frasier takes.
Yeah.
I think the one that we put on the account was that Frasier's not a very good psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And never really has been. I think you tweeted that.
It was me that said it, but yeah. I get the feeling that you don't disagree with me.
I don't, not entirely, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But one that I did see a couple of times, which I was maybe a little bit surprised to see, but that I 100% get behind, was that Niles and Roz should have gotten together.
Yeah.
And just over the last couple of episodes, actually, they've had a lot more interaction. And you can definitely see that there is groundwork there to build on it.
Yeah. You
totally could have. Mm-hmm. The two of them could have been an item.
Perfect enemies to lovers relationship.
And honestly, yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah.
I think I would have loved to see it. We've got... I'm trying not to give too much away, because for those of you that are listening and kind of watching along as we go, the few of you that may be doing that,
yeah.
I don't want to spoil too much and get ahead of it. We want to talk about where we are at present. But there is a lot coming up for Roz in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And her story develops quite significantly. And I love that, but I can't see Niles being part of that.
No, that's a good point.
I can see around that Niles being there, but
mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into it. But no, I noticed that. I think a few people share that opinion.
Yeah, they do. I think it is something that we have mentioned before.
Have we? I think yeah, you're right.
Somewhere out there, there's a multiverse where they've where they are the end game couple.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it works.
I'd like to see it. Yeah, it would have been good. Anyway, I gave it a 4 out of 5 cups.
I also gave it a 4 out of 5 cups.
Interesting. I thought you would have given it a 5.
I thought I would have given it a 5 as well, because I do really like this episode. I don't know what it was.
Brought it down?
I think what it was is, I think this would have worked better as a 2-parter. I don't know what episode I would have gotten rid of in order to stretch this one out instead. And obviously we would have had to have probably like a Frasier Martin B plot, maybe a couple of Frasier Martin B plots to pad out the 2 episodes, because I think you couldn't just stretch this into one. But I feel like they're trying to do too much in the one episode.
Yeah.
Because it's maybe 5 minutes, maybe even more, into the episode before we even get to Daphne has a new boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is supposedly wrapped up by the end of the episode. It feels like it moves by very quickly. You've got Niles getting into a new relationship, which then ends. Daphne ending one relationship, getting into another relationship, which then ends.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Daphne's side of the story in particular is very kind of pushed to one side in favour of Niles' take on the whole situation.
Yeah.
And I maybe would have liked a bit more balance there.
Yeah. What I would have done, personally, is more build-up of the kind of first half of the episode, and then maybe not exactly a cliffhanger, but the end of the first part would be the reveal of Rodney being basically Niles' doppelganger.
A cliffhanger with him walking in the door.
Pretty much. And then the second episode, maybe like a double date, maybe?
I was going to say them out to dinner.
Or like a family dinner where they're all there.
Yeah.
Kind of like expanding on the coffee scene, because we don't really see a lot of Rodney.
No, there's not a huge amount of interaction with him.
I think there was a lot of potential for having Niles and Rodney together and having this like conflict, but they're also the same person.
Yeah.
And that's not tapped into a lot. And I think it would have been really nice if we'd had like a full episode of that then wraps up with the breakup and this nice ending.
I think you're right. I think maybe 2 episodes is maybe a little bit generous.
Yeah.
But I think 1.5, it could do with another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you there. Yeah. There you go. We should do a series where we alter some episodes.
Yeah, rewrite some episodes
in our own vein. There's a few that we could do. There's a few that we've mentioned. You in particular have kind of have varied your mark based on what you have or haven't. Sorry, what you haven't seen, and what you would have liked to have seen.
Yeah,
done.
Maybe that's not fair. Now that I think about it. I don't know. I think that's maybe a bit of an unfair criticism, saying, "Oh, I would have preferred it if you had done it this way."
Well,
rather than actually criticizing it for how it is. But
yes and no. I think if there's a missed opportunity, it's your perception on how you see an episode.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that you could feasibly see done in those 20, 30 minutes that would have enhanced the episode in your eyes, I think it's fair that you could mark it down for not seeing that.
Yeah.
If not like it's something unrealistic, or it's sort of if you're getting your own expectations up about something and then the writers don't do it, I think that's an unfair criticism.
Yeah.
I think that's your fault for building it up in your head, kind of thing. But
no, yeah, that's my worry that's how these criticisms are coming across, is just that it's me with...
No, I wouldn't say so.
I know better, and I think it would be better if it was done my way.
I wouldn't say so at all. No, okay. Definitely, I think... I mean, I can remember a couple of times where you've done it. I've not always agreed, but I can't remember any specific instances.
Yeah.
But here, no, I definitely agree. You've got a lot of potential for Rodney and Niles to be up against one another, and we don't see a whole lot of it. And I think that's a fair criticism. So wanting to see more is totally justified. Don't worry, I got you. Don't worry. Your criticisms are fine.
Good, I'm glad.
And there we go. Disc 1 of season 4, just kicking us off on a high.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's a really, really solid disc, and it doesn't really get much worse. To be honest, I can think of one episode that I may give a 2, depending on how I feel on a rewatch.
Yeah,
the rest at least 3s, and I think we're going to get possibly our highest number of 5s in season 4. I'm betting now.
Yeah, in terms of like season wide 5s. Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, it's really strong. It's when it's just you can feel it. You can feel the team hitting their stride.
Yep.
The actors, the writers, the directors, things like the visuals in the story, like the pacing of the scenes, and even little things like going out into the corridor of KACL. It just enhances a scene. I'm talking specifically about when Niles goes to coach Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
They go and they sit on a little bench outside KCL, and just that little, it just kind of builds the world a bit more. It's not just these single camera shots of inside the booth at Frasier's job. It just, they're all hitting their stride, and I love to see it.
Yeah.
I love to see it. So despite loving the whole thing, is there any particular moment that you would like to give a highlight out to?
Yes. I do have an idea in my head.
Okay.
Actually, there's several jokes in the Two Mrs. Cranes.
Okay.
That I love. That I've specifically written down. There's the joke about Frasier being impotent and the kind of the reaction that he has. There's 2 jokes about Martin apparently being an astronaut, which are really funny. Martin makes a joke about how he was the one that gave Buzz Aldrin his nickname. People think it was because he flew fast. Not true. He was scared of bees.
Yeah. Very
funny. And then right at the end, when everyone reveals to Clive that it's all been a big lie, we've been lying to you this whole time, Clive, as he's storming out, turns to Frasier and Niles and says, I'll never understand how 2 men like you could be spawned from that sweet, courageous old astronaut. Which is very funny. But the bit in that episode that I think is just my absolute highlight, because it's not just like one character having a funny line, but the three guys, Frasier and Niles and Martin, all at their absolute best, is when Martin shows up and they're explaining the situation they've gotten themselves into.
Yep.
And Niles says, Frasier's staying here because he's separated from Maris. And Martin says, you couldn't stand her either, huh? And then laughs. Yeah. And Frasier starts laughing. And then it's the 2 of them doing their standard, like, guffawing. Yeah. And it's very, very funny. And then the camera suddenly cuts to Niles just looking so tired and just like fed up with them, and it's hilarious.
That's very funny.
Yeah, he's great.
I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, absolutely, that is an incredible scene.
I'm gonna give that my.
Okay, no, absolutely fair, absolutely fair. I think I would like to, I think yeah, I'm gonna give my highlight to Niall's advert.
Yeah. It is good.
Because I think there's a lot there's a lot I do love. There's a lot that I could bang on about in all of these episodes. But that's the one in my head, and that's the one I'm going to stick with so that I don't ramble on for too long.
Mm-hmm. It is good.
Yeah, Niles Crane, hung specialist. It's so good, man. It's so clever. It's so clever. Changing one letter of a punchline that you've already made previously in the episode to make it absolutely hilarious. You can't do it these days.
No.
It can't be done. Can't be done.
Yeah. It shows how good the writing is.
No disrespect to all the modern sitcoms that I do actually quite love, but
one sitcom that I've never really gotten into, but I think it had at least some of the same writers or the same showrunners as Frasier did, is Modern Family. And I've never watched much Modern Family.
No, I've not seen much of it either, actually.
Bits that I've seen seem to have not maybe not exactly the same style of humor, but I think jokes like that may well crop up in something like Modern Family.
Yeah, I could see that. It's definitely got that style. A bit, ironically, a bit more modern style, but yeah, mixed with that sort of snappy dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And funnily enough, it was Modern Family that beat Frasier recently. Eclipsed on. There's a good word for it. Yeah. In terms of the Emmy nominations.
Yeah, wins. Outstanding comedy wins, maybe. I
think they beat them for subsequent years.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go.
Yeah,
that's us for another week. So thank you everyone who has tuned in, who is new, who may have stopped in off the back of all our stupid memes.
They're not going to stop.
They're not going to stop.
We're just getting started with
They're only going
memes.
to get worse. Or better, I suppose, depending on your perspective. But yes, thank you very much for being here. We will, as always, be cracking on each week.
Back next week.
Keep going. It's been busy. It's been a busy few weeks. I think we've both been pretty packed. We're kind of cutting the deadlines a wee bit fine recently, but I think that should ease off soon, and we'll be able to give you the content that you deserve. And with that, dear listeners, wish you a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.